money.
If it's hot, it's on.
Yes.
What are you trying to say? Yeah.
You guys say as we're live right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Full team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I call this meeting to order at 12:18 p.m. Vice President.
Here.
Director of Internal Affairs.
Here.
Director of Finance.
Here.
Director of Outreach.
President.
Director of Student Technology.
Here.
Director of Legislative Affairs.
Present.
Great. Approval of the agenda. Are there any amendments that need to be made or motions for approval?
I motion to approve the agenda.
Seconded.
Moved by Alicia, seconded by Ben. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. Approval of the minutes. They have been sent to you.
I motion to approve the minutes.
Seconded.
Moved by Mariah, seconded by Ben. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. Now is the time for public comment. Thank you and welcome to those members of the public who are present in today's meeting. This segment of the meeting provides the Executive Board an opportunity to hear new concerns and new perspectives on current issues related to the UW Tacoma student body. The Executive Board will neither discuss nor debate topics raised in public comment. This is not because we don't value commenters' perspectives, but to ensure any related action is taken transparently before duly notified public at a future meeting. However, directors may ask clarifying questions of those giving public comment or request to meet to gain further insight after the meeting. In addition, ASUWT is committed to fostering a constructive and respectful environment in these meetings. As such, we kindly ask that all remarks made during public comment reflect professionalism, respect, and come from a place of mutual understanding that we are all here to advocate on behalf of students. With that, I begin public comment, in which we have no members of the public present. Cool.
Yeah.
We got it. We're behind. We gotta go quick.
Oh my God.
Unfinished business. We have none. New business. Purchasing requests related to Huskies on the Hill. I know.
It's my cue.
Yeah, this is, I guess, the cue. If you need me to chime in, then
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen what's happened in the group chat in the hour before with that.
I saw some numbers.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, so in short, we still don't have an update on the totes. So we are unsure if we need to actually put in our fund request or not, because we don't have an update from the other campus on the totes.
So I guess for to get everyone up to speed, the idea is that all the campuses would come together and place one order for a bunch of totes to get the cost per tote down. And then it would be shipped either to the WSA office or one of the campuses, and then we would come pick them up. They placed the order, I think, a tad bit too late, so we're waiting to hear from 4 Imprint to see if we can even get it in time for Huskies on the Hill.
Mhm.
If we can't get it on time for Huskies on the Hill, then we don't need to put in the purchasing request. But if they can get it in time, then that's where we would need approval to get it done. Ideally, they were supposed to have it figured out this week so we could approve it and get that proposal in. But 4 Imprint is being difficult, so we don't know.
And according to this message, our cost would be $1,155 because we are ordering 300 totes. And that's on top of a rush fee that we have to pay now because it was placed late. So
For the record,
anyway, yeah, just a contingent, if we get the totes in time or can get the totes in time, is it approved? The funding for it, basically.
I don't know if Alicia, you have any thoughts because there technically isn't a formal thing in, and we can get that in, but it's kind of just a discussion with everyone to be how do we feel?
Well, and for context too, it was also mentioned potentially the campus ordering them could pay the upfront costs and then pay back. So
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is we don't know the ideal number right now.
We don't know because if they can't get Huskies on the Hill is 2 weeks from now. If they can't get it in time, then there's no point to put in the request because we can't get it in time for Huskies on the Hill unless we wanted to make the decision at some point of maybe we order ahead of time while we still have the budget to have it ready in time for next year's Huskies on the Hill. That could be a discussion at a later point. Mariah, I don't know if you had any thoughts on that.
We could place the order still, but it would be probably for next year only. So I don't know if they're going to need 300 totes next year. That's the thing. So we could still place a smaller order, but then it might be, the price might change is what I'm getting at per tote. So I guess it just depends on like what we think we want to adjust and if we want to adjust for next year's administration.
I think with the potential options that were mentioned in the group chat with like potentially paying back, maybe we put this on hold until we have more information is what I would say.
Till next Thursday.
Yeah. And then we can, however we want to work it out with the other campuses, if we want to pay them back or something, we can do that.
And then get a formal purchasing request into Alicia so we're abiding by everything.
Yeah.
I think I like that. I like that idea because I would want to see what we're looking at as well. So, and if we're not sure, I don't want to play around with numbers. So, yeah.
Okay.
Is there a motion to table?
Do I hear a motion to table?
I motion to table this discussion until next meeting.
I second.
Moved by Ben, seconded by Nora. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. This will be tabled until next week's meeting. Okay, next on the agenda, ASUWT Constitution and bylaw revisions. This is just discussion for feedback. This is not taking action. And Moira, I'm going to pull it up. I don't know if you wanted to tag team it with me.
Sure.
Okay. Where do you want to start? Constitution. Okay. How do we want to do this? I know we didn't discuss it before. Okay. Maybe I can begin just talking about the rationale of why these changes. So, in reflection of some senators deciding to not continue with their roles for this quarter, as well as just taking a more comprehensive and honest look at the Senate, how the Senate compares to other campuses in terms of their operations, and most importantly, looking into how much of our annual budget goes into Senate. And the average director costs around $15,000 to employ for the entire year, whereas the entirety of the Senate right now costs $75,000. That got me thinking, well, with the amount of money that we're putting into Senate, are we seeing that amount coming out comparing to a director's output? So that's where Moira and I came together to begin to strategize of what the future of ASUWT could look like if we were to restructure the Senate to look more like the Senates at other campuses where they are purely an opinion-making body, and then having other directors to be able to cover what the Senate does. Was there anything you wanted to add on that, Moira? Okay. So in terms of proposed constitution changes, very, very simple. Did you want to talk about this one, or I can just?
You mean, you can.
Okay.
I'll do the bylaws.
Cool. For the Constitution, all it provides is that the current exec board we have right now are considered the 7 core voting members that have to be on the exec board. However, the size and composition of the exec board may expand to include additional director positions as outlined in the ASUWT bylaws. So what this means is that if this change were to pass both the exec board, Senate, and be voted on the student body in this upcoming election, it would provide ASUWT the opportunity to have additional directors to ASUWT as a whole. And this also provides us the flexibility that by making it in the ASUWT bylaws, if say we get into a budget crisis with SAFC in the future where enrollment takes a severe dip like we saw during the pandemic, we can cut those positions out of necessity and not have to do a constitution change in order to make that happen.
I have a question.
Yes.
So how would this function with the upcoming election, since these would have to be passed during election?
Mm-hmm.
But if the point of this change is the Senate issue, would we have one more year of the Senate functioning the way that it currently does?
No, so what would end up happening is the same as what happened when we all ran last year, where certain changes were contingent on what happened to the student body. What would end up happening is if, say, the Senate were to, or not the Senate, the student body were to vote for this, all it means is the upcoming year's administration, after the votes have been certified, would begin hiring for those directors rather than them being elected. With regards to the Senate, another very simple change. It becomes the elected and appointed representative opinion body. When we talk about the bylaws, Moira can explain what that means. Each academic unit in the University of Washington-Tacoma shall be entitled to 1 seat on the Senate as determined by the ASUWT bylaws. Again, puts more powers into the bylaws where we could be more flexible as our budget changes over the years. The Senate shall include a Senate-appointed student at-large representatives as outlined by the bylaws. Again, bear with me, we'll get there. The total size of the Senate may be capped as outlined in the bylaws. So this means we can make it larger, smaller, whichever, but in the bylaws. Any questions about these proposed changes so far or initial thoughts? Okay. And then Moira, if you want to take it away on bylaws.
Sure.
And if you want, I can chime in too.
Okay. Sounds good.
Probably download it too if it's not moving right away.
Okay. So, Holly and I discussed, so we're going to have core representatives. Each academic program at the University of Washington-Tacoma is entitled to 1 elected Senate representative. So ASUWT recognizes the following academic units, colleges as academic programs. So we would have, IAS would be split, and then the rest of the schools would have 1 Senate elected representative. Should a representative change their major or academic unit, the representative will be removed from office. Pre-major senators are exempt as they only need to be pre-major at the time of election. And then we go into the Senate appointment process. So additional senators may be appointed to the Senate to provide representation for student populations that may not otherwise be adequately reflected by senators from academic programs. All representatives are entitled to 1 seat. ASUWT recognizes the following as eligible at-large senators. So first year, transfer, Court 17, first gen, and Holly and I are open to suggestions if you see anything missing. Additional at-large Senate representatives may be created with amendments to this section in the ASUWT bylaws. Questions so far? So for the nomination process, to ensure that all appointed senators are capable of representing their designated demographic effectively, the following process will be conducted by the Senate. So instead of senators leaving and having to go through a hiring process with Internal Affairs, the Senate would be in charge of hiring a new senator. So the person would put in a letter of interest. Candidates interested in the position must submit a written letter of interest to the Speaker of the Senate. The Speaker of Senate will then represent the candidate to the ASUWT Senate at the next meeting for discussion of whether they will be moved forward in the process with a majority vote. The ASUWT Senate may deny or accept to interview a candidate. For interview, once the ASUWT Senate has moved forward to interview a candidate, they will invite the candidate to the upcoming Senate meeting for an interview. Candidates will deliver a brief 3 to 5 minute pitch outlining their qualifications, goals, and why they are best fit for the role. Senators will have the opportunity to ask candidate questions related to their letter of interest and readiness to fulfill the role's responsibilities. Appointment. Following the interview, whether in the same meeting or in a future meeting, the Senate may hold a vote to appoint or reject the candidate. A simple majority of seated senators is required for the appointment to be approved. In the event that the Senate cannot meet quorum or has less than 7 senators, the ASUWT Executive Board may conduct this process until the Senate is able to conduct the process themselves. The Exec Board will ensure that the Senate is well informed and provided opportunities to be included in the process. Questions? Thoughts? Opinions?
I'm going to read one thing.
Yes.
So with this structure that Moira just read out, This is with the idea that the Senate is just an opinion-making body. All they're doing is going to meetings. Senators are no longer meeting with deans. They're just there in meetings. They read materials ahead of time, whether it's a resolution or other matters that are of interest. They're just there in meetings. If they want to go above and beyond and sit on committees, that's on them.
So then for the exec board, we're having the Director of Undergraduate Affairs, Director of Graduate Affairs, and the Director of Social Equity and Justice. Holly and I are still figuring out for the name for Director of Social Equity and Justice, but that's just the idea we have right now. The idea being that and I can go more into it for the power, so let me do that. But though it's going to be 10 directors instead of 7. And the idea is we're cutting the budget for Senate because Senate would not be doing as much, and then it would be moved to pay for these directors. Yes, Alicia?
So if I'm understanding, then we're just cutting Senate out of the budget altogether.
So each Senate person, it's going to be like similar to SAFC or CCE where they're getting $1,000 stipend. So we're changing Senate to stipend. Right?
Yes. Yeah. And in the last few days, I've reached out to Seattle and GPSS. GPSS only pays their senators a couple $100 for the entire year.
Yeah.
So with the idea of assuming SAFC approval for the upcoming year, if we only pay them, say, $1,000, that's still more than what Seattle pays them.
Okay, so that means more director roles then.
Yeah. So if we assume that our budget stays stagnant for, like, if we get the same amount of money that we got this year for next year, instead of paying the entirety of Senate $75,000 across all positions, it would be more like $20,000.
Okay. Okay. So okay.
So
I gotta change the budget. If we approve this, right? Would this have to be changed in this year's allocation request?
I think it's something we could talk more
Which is why we want to talk ASAP.
Because there's
because that's the
Yeah.
No, we know what we're doing in the timeline. We need to chat.
yeah. Okay.
Mariah, I see a question.
I was just wondering if this does go through and we add those directors and basically make the Senate a stipend position for $1,000 a year, does that mean that we're going to advocate for the directors to have a higher budget for their stipend, or is it going to stay the same as it is this year?
I think it depends very much on SAFC and what all they have coming for them. Okay. I'm optimistic just from looking at our enrollment trends. We've already seen that they have more money to play around with than they did last year. Yeah. And that may prove to be better as we go forward. Just from talking to the chancellor, across the state enrollment is dipping for other colleges, but for UW-Tacoma, we're actually going up. Not by much, but we're one of the few that are actually going up. So that is something to look forward to. But it depends on SAFC.
Okay, thank you.
Involvement and engagement, I would say, too, with some of the engagement numbers we've been seeing.
Yeah. Okay, so this is more in depth of the role for Director of Undergraduate Affairs. So the idea would be that because right now senators don't have enough hours and they're not paid enough, and they're not paid the same amount as directors, we're giving this role to a director so that they can have more hours and have the pay to do the work. So Director of Undergraduate Affairs shall have the power and responsibility to develop and implement initiatives aimed at improving the undergrad student experience, collect and review feedback from undergrad students on academic and campus-related issues, there's surveys, forums, and other methods, oversee and coordinate a committee of senators representing undergrad programs to coordinate initiatives to improve the undergrad experience. The Director of Undergrad Affairs may expand the committee to include members of the general student population and or other senators, meet with the deans of schools quarterly to discuss undergrad concerns, gather updates, and present recommendations. So instead of the director would meet with all the schools, because the senators for each specific school, their their job would not be to meet with their deans. It would now be the role of the director of undergrad affairs to meet with all the deans of all the schools. Sit on tri-campus committees as it relates to undergrad student affairs and carry out additional duties as delegated by the ASUWT president and vice president. Questions? Okay. Director of graduate affairs. Development, very similar to undergrad affairs, except for they meet with the Washington Student Association, so WSA, vice president of graduate affairs, and participate on the graduate and professional students committee to aid in advocating for graduate student needs in the state legislature. And they also serve as the University of Washington-Tacoma graduate student representative and the Graduate Professional Student Senate, or GPSS.
And then one thing that I just found out about in the last 24 hours with regards to GPSS is making moves to be more tri-campus. In name only, they say that they're tri-campus, but now they're actually looking to amend their own governing documents to include Tacoma and Bothell representation in their governing body. So with the idea that that follows through, and even not, this position would be able to advocate for that type of seat. Assuming that goes through at the end of this year, this position would be part of their Senate.
I think it makes more sense this way too, just also speaking from like the legislative side, because we have one graduate representative from GPSS who lobbies with the lobbying team. So it just makes more sense for them to represent graduate students on all three campuses, because like I personally can't speak for the graduate students on campus because I'm not a graduate student.
Cool. So lastly, build and maintain relationships with staff responsible for graduate student services at UW-Tacoma and carry out additional duties. For the Director of Social Equity and Justice, ASUWT Director of Social Equity and Justice shall have the power and responsibility to develop and implement initiatives aimed at promoting equity and inclusion at UW-Tacoma, collect and review feedback from underrepresented students, issues through surveys, forms, and other methods, serves as the chair of the ASUWT Student Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Access IDEA Committee in partnership with the Office of Equity and Inclusion, represent ASUWT on tri-campus and on-campus committees relating to inclusion, diversity, equity, and access among students, build and maintain relationships with identity-based RSOs by meeting regularly to support their efforts and better understand their needs, recommend changes to ensure all ASUWT operations and all practices are inclusive and equitable for all students, carry out additional duties as delegated by the ASUWT president and vice president. That's all. Yeah, and that's it. Questions, comments? Okay. What do you want me to do with this?
I think that's fine.
Okay.
Are there, we can go back to the table.
Are you going to propose changes to the Director of Internal Affairs role? Because that changes a lot of the words in the bylaws and everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
So part of this is like just getting initial feedback from you guys and obviously talking to the Senate when they're meeting and able to be more consistent. But then like what other things need to change?
Yeah, I guess a better question would be, did you guys have any ideas of differences you would like to see in the internal affairs role, considering a lot of the time would not be spent as I am spending it now?
I don't get what you're asking.
Question. Currently, a large majority of my hours goes toward one-on-one meetings with senators. If we are changing the entirety of what Senate is and what it does, how would you propose the Director of Internal Affairs fill their time? Do they focus more on full group training and like, is it like more organizational development activities that they would focus on rather than like guiding and advising senators? Do you guys have any ideas?
I mean, I think that's, I agree with what you're suggesting. I think that would be good, but to be honest, no, I have not put thought to it.
Could it be transitioned? And we've I feel like we've tossed around this idea before, but transitioned to a sort of chief of staff where overseeing the directors as opposed, and then it frees up president and vice president to
I agree with that.
And that's
Yeah.
something to think about.
I think that's kind of what Nora was getting at too, with like adjusting the way she spends her time. But it just sounds like it would be better spent if we took that and try to like make it so our team like works more cohesively together on certain issues.
I also like the idea of organizational development and getting people in a room to have a training and that kind of thing, just because with like this year is a little bit different just because I'm balancing another job that bleeds into my ASUWT time on a regular basis. But looking at even last year too, having a dedicated person who can help get people in a room, even when the president is plopping around everywhere, that could be really helpful.
I think Ben makes a good point about maybe making the person who would be in my role oversee more roles. But as the, what's it called? Like my role has been kind of deemed the HR actor person, but HR is so much more than just hiring and overseeing the accountability policy. So I think it would be a really good idea to expand it more to include other aspects of human resources, such as organizational development, and really outline that.
Would it be unfair of me to say, do you want to draft what that could look like in terms of language? Do you have time for that? Whenever. Because we still need to refine some of this and see if it's even possible budgetarily. See if I need to talk to Emmanuel still to see how to pitch it.
Yes, I can put that together, but it's also like I would like input from you all as well. So any ideas, like Ben's idea, send them my way and I can draft them up.
Could we change the title to as well, like the chief of staff? I don't know if chief of staff would be right, but okay, cool.
I mean, it's not my decision. But I think encompasses more things.
Okay. Any other thoughts about these proposed changes? Good, bad, negative? This is just opinions.
I would recommend a Senate seat for veteran students.
Okay.
That would be my only other recommendation.
Yeah, that could be put on there for sure.
This might be controversial, but I would think that it's worth mentioning that the outreach position is really busy with just ASUWT activities. But also, I think that it would be helpful to Ben and his legislative activities if he had somebody that was specifically outreach for the ledge arm of all activities that includes like Huskies on the Hill, planning and everything.
The community organizer we've talked about. That's we didn't talk about hired staff, but that's still something to talk about with.
Okay. I didn't know it was going to be hired staff, but I thought
Or a
maybe-
director?
Yeah, it could be a director position too.
Let me talk to Sean how their OGR works, because I wasn't going to specifically bring that up, but I figured that this would sort of lead into us also establishing an Office of Government Relations as well for the ledge arm, which would then mean that we would need some form of community organizer outreach for ledge specific stuff. Plus, we've been addressing this like the last 2 quarters that like you're too spread thin with having to do everything. I'm too spread thin trying to do ledge stuff on top of any potential outreach that needs to happen.
Yeah, exactly. It's nobody's
and
fault.
Ashley's
you
in
know?
Olympia the entire quarter right now. So
All
Yeah.
I'll say to that is put it in Alicia's form that she sent out for annual allocations. So we have that in writing.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna need all.
Mhm.
I'm going to need all this because it sounds like a lot of changes to what I've already made in the proposal for my annual allocations, which is really stressful because this is actually due in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So I actually need to see this stuff now if we're going to be making changes. Because that means adjusting my questions answers as well. So.
To that point, maybe you don't have to take this suggestion at all, but you could send the people who are interested in adding on to your request the questions, and they can send some answers that you can incorporate into your request. So it's not you doing all of the work yourself.
She did send a form out. Is it still open? She just, like, what are your recommendations? What do you want? Like, she sent out a form to
that will be on
answer.
the form. But I can also, I didn't put the questions that's being asked by SCFC. Yeah, no, I did not accept that. But I did open up a form where I'm asking if you guys have any recommendation for this year's proposal to add that on there. But I could send out the questions as
And
well.
I can, as things come up, I can also help write language with you.
Okay.
So you're not all alone in this.
Okay, I think I might have most definitely have to adjust the budget
Yeah.
more than I have, and also the questions.
Yeah, questions I think will be okay. I can work on that with you
Okay.
and then talk to people and get input too, or send out a form or whatever makes most sense.
Got it.
Any other lingering thoughts? Susan?
This would adjust how we can get major specific technology for students because our current senators, they can meet with the deans and they know exactly what kinds of technology, software certain students need, and they're able to meet one-on-one and have that experience and knowledge of what they need. If we just have an undergraduate senator, they're not going to know everything that students need. So there needs to be something set up so that they can have those negotiations with majors.
Undergraduate director, you mean?
Yeah,
Okay.
that.
Which
Sorry.
it isn't part of that role that they are meeting with the deans, so they would
Sorry.
kind of cover it. Oh, no. I was just,
Yeah, they wouldn't know everything that they have. So it's beneficial to have the senators be able to meet with the deans. We might need to set up something where the senators meet with the undergraduate or the graduate directors, and then they can send that off to the deans. So that would have to be reworked. Or you could have the director of student technology do more of like getting in connection with it because we can't fund all of that on SCFC.
Do you think like making it part of the director of student technology's job description to go to a Senate meeting every quarter and ask those types of questions?
I think that could be it. That could be it. I would have to think more on it and get back to you.
No, that's fair. This is the first time you guys are seeing this. Cool. In the nature of time, we'll move forward. And this is obviously going to be a continuing conversation. Or, yes, Alicia?
Oh, no, that's the turn section.
Oh, okay. Director updates.
Okay, well, guess I'm not almost finished with my annual allocations proposal. No, you're good. I like the new changes are good. Those are good things. What's to call it? I do have one request. It's the hourly tracking form. I have one question towards this. Should I make it? Mariah brought it up to me that maybe change it up a little bit where I make it like check boxes about like, oh, these simple tests that you've done, and if other, you can add on to it. Would that be easier to fill out the form weekly if you didn't have to sit there and type out all of Okay, then I will work on that then. Okay, sweet. Okay.
And to add on to that, maybe like send her suggestions for those like categories that apply to you, like other than clerical duties.
Sweet.
We are in the process of conducting interviews for the Food Equity and Basic Needs Task Force. Our last one is today. So hopefully next week we can have somebody to vote on and pass through. Senate will be meeting today at 5 p.m. If you're free and you want to drop in, please do. We will be voting on a graduate senator candidate. And now, due to unfortunate circumstances, we had 2 senators have to leave their roles. So we now have a vacant healthcare leadership, nursing and healthcare leadership, and social work and criminal justice Senate seats open. So if you guys know anybody, please encourage them to apply and send. I was supposed to talk about you about sending out a DevNet email to those majors. So we can talk about that if you'd like. Anyway, those are my updates.
Anyone else want to share?
Are the positions posted on Handshake already? Okay, cool. I'll look for those and make a post about it so that we can try to.
Make sure we talk in the mics.
And multimedia specialist for spring quarter.
Yes.
So We need to be hiring and doing stuff for that now so that when the position is vacant come spring, we can just have someone roll into it. So also please have that on your agenda and be talking to people and encouraging them to apply.
Is that one posted too? Yes. Yay. Thank you.
I have updates, but I wanted to make sure that no one else had any because I had a few. All right. The registration for Huskies on the Hill is closed. UW Tacoma has 137 students registered to attend Huskies on the Hill. Across all 3 campuses, we have 372 students, both graduate and undergraduate students, registered to attend Huskies on the Hill.
How much do the other campuses have?
It's not a competition.
I know it's
Holly.
not a competition, but I
Seattle
am
has
competitive.
172 and Bothell has 63
Yes.
and we have 137.
Thank you, Mariah.
Yes. With that, starting next week from 10 a.m. to noon, we will be doing Huskies on the Hill training. Everyone that has registered should have received an email about it. I will be the one instructing the training. If you cannot attend, we're currently trying to work out because we've had a few people already say that they can't attend the 4 days that we currently have it on. We're trying to work out a Friday option as well. But if you can't attend, reach out to me, let me know. We also have our kickoff Friday evening. Yes, Mariah.
Apologies.
Yeah.
For the training, I was wondering for the kickoff, for those that want to go to the kickoff but can't attend any of the trainings for whatever reason, maybe we can give them like a quick rundown of the training at that, but we only send it to those students that say that they cannot attend. You know, so they come or they stay or go to a separate table or something where you can talk to them or do the training, but like a shorter version.
Let me talk to you after the meeting.
Okay.
And we have had a few of our legislative priorities drop as bills. So keep an eye out for your emails from Holly on those, so that you can show support for our agenda items. And if you are interested in testifying on any agenda items that we're currently working on, reach out to me. I can arrange for any students who do want to testify in Olympia. And that's all.
Anyone else want to share anything? Okay. Advisor updates.
Thanks. Just quick things, really strong effort so far with Huskies on the Hill for getting that number. You said 137. How many need the bus?
Just over 100. We're okay.
Okay, cool. Okay. So we are figuring that out. The logistics are going there. As Alicia mentioned, SAFC is due in just about 2 weeks. And she's already making some really good effort on it. So get all the details you might need to her sooner rather than later. And STFC is kicking off and doing great things. Things to bear in mind next week and the week after is just making sure that everyone who's going to Huskies on the Hill is duly informed and shows up. This is where we start to see some of those emails come through. It's like, I can't go anymore. And we want to make sure that they show up. There's a bunch of other than that. Good job, everybody.
Could everybody send me their sizes for a hoodie through Teams?
For
really
in the
quick?
team?
Mhm.
Yeah, we can send an email. And then with regards to everyone else, I'm waiting until we know who signs up to training and who doesn't, because if there are people.
I just meant our team for
Okay.
now, but yes, that's a good point. We should do that and then give them out based on name, I guess, whenever they come.
Okay. Chair updates, just Huskies on the Hill. That's our biggest thing for right now. I've been meeting with people with regards to data I just presented to the Husky Health Coalition this morning. So that's all exciting. And then support Ben with stuff when he needs it.
February 3rd.
Yes, February 3rd, all day. Clear your calendar.
Yep.
That being said, is there a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn the meeting.
Seconded.
Moved by Alicia, seconded by Ben. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. Goodbye.